Okay, everyone. So, this is going to be a good one. I've been wanting to make a video about this for a while, but I had to do some reading to remember some things and then obviously I had to write my notes. So, I had to do a little bit of homework for this one. And what I'm going to be talking about today is the astrology aspect of whatever age we're supposed to be in right now, that somewhere along the line someone associated this, what they call the age of Aquarius, right, with the new golden age. I don't know where that came from originally, but I don't think that's accurate in that sense, because you have to look at the yugas. But before we get to the yugas, let's talk about the astrology aspect of things. Okay, so basically there is a massive debate regarding, not this one, this one. Let me see. Yeah, so because there isn't a real consensus and there are different opinions when it comes down to the astrological aspect of these zodiacal phases, right? Age is what they call it. And because there are different methods that are utilized to measure the timeline of these things, and there's also different interpretations. So, because of that, it's hard to pinpoint exactly, and I would even say accurately, uh, where are we at right now. So let me read it to you so we can have an idea why. There are some who think that this whole thing started in 2012, then others that believe that it started in somewhere in December 2020. There's this geometric approach that some astrologers divide the zodiac into 12 equal 30-degree signs based on the rate of precession. This method, okay, pieces the start of the age of Aquarius to begin roughly at around 2150. So if you would go by this method, it hasn't even begun yet. Then there's the other method where they use the official constellation boundaries established by the International Astronomical Union that was founded in, I think, was 1929. Uh, the age of Aquarius won't officially start until roughly 2600, if you would go by this specific method that I just mentioned. And then according to the book World of Horoscopes, collected research includes over 90 different start dates ranging from 1447 to 3597. So that just gives you a rough idea of how there is so much information out there. And then there's the fact that there's multiple different interpretations based on whatever method was used or is being used by whoever. And it makes it hard for you to have a real solid idea of where we stand right now with these things. Now, why do I talk about this? Why do I think this is important? Is because, there's so many people out here right now talking about all of these things, and there's people like, oh yeah, the human race is ascending. We're in the next step of the spiritual evolution and this and that, but you have to look at some of these data to correlate to these things to have an idea of where we actually may be actually truly standing right now when it comes down to these things, because it doesn't matter how uh, when you talk about the collective, the population, humanity in general, in order for something like this to happen, we would have to be in one of these stages of the timeline for things to be much more um, doable and happen in a realistic manner, unlike how a lot of people claim things are happening, right? You have to look at the state of the whole. And then you have to look at world events and things that are happening as we speak to realize that something just doesn't add up here. I would love to be all sunshine and rainbows like a lot of people, but when it comes down to a lot of things, I like to be very realistic and I like to look things up because I think it's important that we understand where we stand with this whole thing of this whole aspect of, you know, our own spiritual evolution, right? Now, then you have the yugas. Okay, the yugas are the cycles based upon the Hindu and the Indian, traditions of their spiritual teachings and things like that, that it talks about these cycles that humanity goes through. And each cycle has its own thing, right? So we are supposed to be, well, that's another thing. For some, they think that we are in the Kali Yuga. But this is also another thing that is up to debate and it's up to contention and it's a matter of interpretation. So do you see the issue with all of these things? It's always a matter of having the proper current interpretation and try to be historically accurate, which I don't think it's very realistic at all, if you ask me, because there is so much information that we don't know, that we don't have access to it anymore. There is so much information that has been lost. How many books have been burned throughout the history of mankind? Library of Alexandria, anyone? Do you think that was the only instance of something like that happening? I can assure you that that's not the case. That's the most well known that we know of, because there were lots of witnesses and then oral, tradition and history was passed down. So people know about these things and then people wrote about it. But I guarantee you that there were other places on earth that had books and valuable information like that that were destroyed through either wars or cataclysmic environmental events and things of that nature that we'll never know of. And some of this information may have been extremely valuable and we'll never know because we've never seen, never heard of, and never will because it doesn't exist anymore. You also have oral traditions and things like that, which are very valid, and I honor that kind of stuff. But you also have to be discerning at how you come across this type of information. And then the other thing is oral traditions and information in that sense, they are very volatile because all it takes is for an entire group of people or culture to perish and to cease to exist due to all kinds of factors that could make that happen, where that tradition and that information will also cease to exist and not be passed down anymore. So do you see all the variables and factors that are at play here when it comes down to these things? It's not it's not that simple, and it's not black and white like a lot of people think as well. There's a lot of things here that people don't talk about. So yeah, this interpretations thing, that's another thing. You know, it's big, and they say there's this massive debate regarding our current position in the Yuga cycle, right? Primarily because there are two wildly different methods used to calculate the dates, and this is important. The traditional Puranic, it's what they call Puranic interpretation, is that we are roughly 5,127 years into the Kali Yuga so far, which is traditionally believed to have begun following the death of Krishna, which was kind of like roughly some 3,500 years before Christ was born. The Kali Yuga is supposed to be, based on this interpretation, right, the Puranic one, 432,000 years. It's supposed to last for that long. If we are to follow this model, okay, that means we still have 426,813 years left. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a whole lot of numbers and it's a whole lot of time. And I just, to me, this feels unfathomable to even try to grasp this and accept it based on these values and numbers alone. Because there's so much about our own history that we don't know. There's so much of it, like I said before, that was tampered, you know, messed with, changed, written over again, rewritten, altered, and all that stuff, right? Call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't care. This is factual and is verifiable. Throughout the history of mankind, this has been a thing. It's a common theme. It's a common factor when you begin to look into history and things of that nature. Then there's another interpretation, which is according to, and I'm probably going to butcher his name here, okay? Forgive me, but I'm not Hindu or Indian. So, according to Sri Yukteswar, which was, he was some sort of like, you know, spiritual enlightened master, one of those in India. Highly regarded as one of those. Anyway, if that's true or not, I don't know. But that's what they regard his as, right? According to his interpretation, the Kali Yuga ended in the 1700s. And then right now we would be ascending in the ascending Dwapara Yuga, which is much better than the Kali Yuga. But here's the thing, guys. Do you see the contrast here between one interpretation, one version, and the other? So this one, which is the most, well, the one that they currently claim to be the most accepted, the Puranic. Well, not, I wouldn't say it most accepted. It says the traditional. That's the traditional one, right? We're talking about almost 500,000 years. This is insane. Like like I said, I think this is unfathomable. In that amount of time, you would have so many civilizations rise and fall, and all, even different types of humans. Who knows? You know, I don't know. This seems too much to me. But that's my opinion, though. You know, we're all entitled to our own, right? Um, and like I said, there was this idea that has been propagated for a while that the age of Aquarius would usher in the new golden age. But that's very inaccurate and untrue, because the golden age, what people call the golden age, that is the Satya Yuga. And that will not come until the Dwapara Yuga is gone. And then the Treta Yuga comes. And then that one is going to last for only God knows how long, too. I don't know how long this Dwapara Yuga is going to last. I didn't look the numbers on that. But if we were to follow the Puranic version, I am assuming the numbers are pretty similar to the Kali Yuga, you know, give and take 100 to 100,000 years, less or more. Who knows? What I'm trying to say is this: if you're following these data sets, this is crazy, guys. This is insane. Like, it's like I said, it's unfathomable. I don't even know if the Earth would last that long. If let's say, let's theorize for a moment here that we let's follow this Puranic model and think in that sense for a minute. You know, bear with me. If we have another, 426,000, almost 427,000 years left for the next Yuga to come, and then give another 500,000 for the next one, and then give another 500,000 for the next one. That's like 1,500,000,000, 1,500,000,000, a 1,500,000,000 years left until this supposed golden age returns. That is a very long time, if you ask me. But here's the important thing. If this would be the correct numbers that we should be going by, and if this is the correct timeline that we should be following, and I'm not saying it is, okay? I'm just saying this is one of them that is out there, and is the one that seems to be traditionally accepted the most. If this is the case, all of this new age talk that a lot of people are parroting and like to talk about, oh yeah, we are ascending, we're shifting, we're going into the 5D, the new earth. Everyone is gonna awaken and have their, spiritual powers fully awakened and developed soon. This is what a lot of people claim, though. This is not what I'm saying. But go look up this stuff. There's plenty of people out here on this platform talking about these things, saying this stuff. This is absolutely absurd if you're gonna follow this model here. If you're gonna go by this. And even if that's not the case, and we go by the Sri you star, whatever his name is, right? If we're supposed to go by his interpretation, which is among the spiritual people, I guess, the people who practice Hindu, whatever. If we're going to go by his interpretation, it's still gonna take a while. So it's not gonna be, 1.5 billion years, but it's still gonna be, maybe another 6, 7, 8,000 years, which is still a very long time. So my point is, when it comes down to these things, we're never really gonna know until it happens. And chances are we're probably not going to be alive to witness that in this specific version of ourselves. That's what I'm saying. There's still a long ways to go, and a long road to overcome before we reach that point, collectively speaking. And this reinforces my view on these things, if you're familiar with what I talk about here. Because when you look at the state of things and how the world is currently and all the events and things that are happening and unfolding, it makes a lot more sense that way. Let's be real and let's be honest. Humanity is just as barbaric as it was today, as it was, 2 or 3 thousand years ago. If we're being honest with ourselves, that's how it is, right? So until world peace happens, and I'm gonna use that as the as the point for us to go by from that point on, right? Until world peace happens, and it stays that way for a very long time, and it kind of establishes itself. Let's say, let's hypothetically say that world peace happens. Let's say I'm gonna be generous here, okay? Because I'm trying to have a positive mindset when it comes down to these things. But let's just say that 5 or 10 years from now, world peace is achieved. Let's say that. I don't see that happening, but let's say that. And then it stays like that for like an entire century. Then after that, it would be safe to assume that we would be on the right track, and things are improving on a major way, right? But until that day comes, it's still going to be the way it is now, and you won't see a lot of big changes happening, my friends. You really won't, especially if we're to abide and go by some of these information that I just, shared here with you guys. Just think about it. Look at the numbers. Like again, I don't think that Puranic version is 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 very realistic. I think it's just too much. But even like I said, even if we are to go by the version of that guy, right, the spiritual master guy, it's still 6,000 8,000 years. That's a long time. That's a long time. That's us coming and going for only God knows for how many hundreds of reincarnations, right? So this is really all I wanted to talk about this one. Maybe on another video I'll talk about Blavatsky and her whole thing with the 7 root races and stuff, because I have a lot of reservations when it comes down to that too. When I sometimes I like to have topics that are more like this on the esoteric side of things and the occult knowledge and wisdom side of things, so we can have a better understanding of the whole picture and scenario and where we currently stand, right, as humanity. But personally speaking, I think there's still a very long way to go. And I'm going to leave it at that, my friends. If you like the channel, don't forget to click the like button, share, subscribe. It helps the channel grow and reach more people. And this is the reason why I make these videos. And I will catch you all on the next one. Be safe. Take care. I love you all. Till next time, my friends.